I'm so excited to welcome today's guest to the podcast, Danielle Levy. Danielle is a fractional COO here at the COO Solution and one of the most naturally gifted operators I've had the privilege of working with. She is an integrator at heart with a deep background in people, operations, and digital communications. She holds an MBA and a PMP certification, and she is also a certified EOS Integrator Masterclass graduate, which means she brings both the strategic framework and the real-world execution skills that scaling founders need. Danielle is known for her clear communication, structured leadership, and ability to solve problems before they become bottlenecks. She has a gift for stepping into complex, fast-moving organizations and quickly becoming the steady, trusted presence that the founder and the team did not know they were missing. When she is not helping CEOs and founders scale their businesses, she is a proud hockey mom to two energetic boys. And today's episode is something a little bit different here at the COO Solution Podcast. We are pulling back the curtain a bit, giving you an inside look of what it actually means to be a fractional COO, what the work looks like from the operator's perspective, and what it is like to work inside the COO Solution. Whether you are a founder thinking about bringing on a fractional COO or an experienced operator wondering what the path looks like, this conversation is for you. Let's get into it. Hi, I'm Derek Fredrickson. Welcome to the COO Solution Podcast, the show for business owners and visionary leaders who want to scale with clarity, confidence, and the right support. For over 16 years, I've been in the trenches as a fractional COO, Chief Operating Officer, helping entrepreneurs align their teams, streamline operations, and remove bottlenecks that slow growth. I understand the challenges, feeling overwhelmed, stretched too thin, or uncertain about how to scale without burning out. I've helped business owners move from chaos to clarity, creating businesses that run smoothly and grow and scale. Each week, I'll bring you real-world insights, proven strategies, and practical solutions to help you step into your highest role as a leader. Whether it's optimizing your team, strengthening accountability, or building the right systems for growth, this podcast is here to support you in scaling smarter. So if you're ready to create a business that thrives without requiring more of you, let's get started. Hey there, everybody. It's Derek Fredrickson here from the COO Solution and the COO Solution Podcast, and welcome to a very exciting episode with a very special guest. We have one of our own with us today, our own fractional COO as part of the COO team at the COO Solution, Danielle Levy. Welcome, Danielle. Great to have you to the show.
Thank you for having me, Derek. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. We are doing things a bit differently today. We are, what I like to say, pulling back the curtain a bit about what goes on the inside of the COO Solution from the perspective of a fractional COO. So Danielle has been a member of the team. Gosh, when did you start with us, Danielle? Was it last May? About 8?
It was. I'm coming up on a year.
Wow. Feels like longer than that. It also feels like we've just kind of got started. Yeah, so Danielle's been a part of the team for about a year. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like to be a fractional COO here at the COO Solution, the type of work that we do with our clients, how we help founders scale their businesses. What does it really look like in the day-to-day from the COO perspective? And so Danielle's been grateful to share a bit about what it's like behind the scenes. And so we're going to dive into some of that. And also for founders and CEOs to understand a little bit more about how we do what we do here at the COO Solution. I often talk about at the COO Solution, we focus just as much on what a founder needs to do to grow and scale their company, in addition to how they need to be doing what they need to do to grow and scale the company. So I think we'll be able to share some great insights and examples on what that is like. So Danielle, to kick us off, you've been doing fractional COO work for quite some time. You're very familiar with EOS. You've done your kind of integrator training. You're a strategic operator. How did you get started? Like, where in your journey did you say, okay, the fractional COO lane is for me. That's where I have my sweet spot. How did that come to be for you in your kind of professional path?
Yeah. You know, when I tell my story, people often say, really, is that how it all came together? But this is the way that it was. I had come out of graduate school a little bit later in life. I had already had my kids and I had a milestone birthday. I had a friend who had gotten laid off and I said, I'm going to go on this trip that came to be 101 different ways. It just sort of fell together. And I went on this trip and I found myself in a wonderful situation and it was raining and I met some folks. We sort of passed the weekend together and I came back and I didn't think twice about it. And what I didn't realize realized I had met two people, and I'm an introvert. So the fact that I went on this trip was a big deal for me. I had met two key people that would change the trajectory of my career. One was the person who was a virtual assistant at the time, which I didn't know what that was, who would introduce me to my first client. And two was an entrepreneur specialist who was working behind the scenes for one of the biggest influencers in the market at that time. And I just thought they were these lovely ladies, and I didn't think twice about it. Between the two of them, they said, you need to go down this path. And I had my first client handed to me. And then this entrepreneur specialist says, I think you should go take this certification. This sounds like what you are. And I was just looking to validate myself and understand what I was doing, and sort of picked up a title at that point as a result of that coincidental introduction to these two people. Several years later, the pandemic struck, and there were a lot of people jumping into the online space and trying to figure out how to stand up businesses. And that was a very, very busy time for me. But I didn't quite feel in place with what everybody else was doing, because they were all of a sudden trying to stand up businesses. And I would saying, well, this doesn't make sense. This isn't how you do it. And there was sort of a wave of clients that I was sort of, trying to figure out what my footing was again. And the market continued to evolve. And eventually those new founders sort of slipped away. And that's sort of when I feel like I knew this is what I wanted to do, because I had traveled this road of being an entrepreneur and working with small businesses and large businesses, and had a really cool background in agencies. And the market sort of leveled out and was looking for that blend of entrepreneurial spirit, sound business sense, people that wanted to connect with other people and make change in a less traditional way. And so it all sort of just came together for me, really, I would say in the last 5 or so years, even though it's been a very long career that has gotten me here.
That's amazing. Interesting to hear how the divine timing of things worked out in interesting ways there along your journey.
Yeah. It is crazy.
Yeah. I ask this of every single COO, whether they work with us right now. We have a team. We've onboarded 2 new COOs this week. So I think we have a team of 12 now COOs here at the COO Solution. In your words, in your own way, how do you describe what a COO does? Like, if you could kind of characterize it into Danielle's, here's what your philosophy and what a COO does, whether it's day to day, whether it's with the founder, with the team, like what does that look like for you in terms of the definition?
We're professional problem solvers.
And
I think it's as simple as that. We try to meet all types and all professional levels of people where they're. We've got an eye, like it's almost like we can see the playbook before it's unfolded in the words, mainly not spoken. You and I were in a conversation yesterday. We both walked away with the same message. There was never an exchange between you and I.
That's right, but we knew.
And we were ahead of the conversation. And so I think it's this intuition of what is the problem that needs to be solved. I am a huge advocate of Dan Sullivan's Who, Not How. I'm sure you read it.
Yeah.
It's always figuring out who's our next who's our next super who, and what is the problem that we're trying to solve, in peeling back all of the emotion that generally comes with it.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of emotion.
Yeah, for sure. In this line of work, we get in it. We get into the hood of the business and see all the good, the bad, the ugly, and no judgment, but we get a really clear view of what's working and what's not working. And I love the kind of professional problem solving. It could be problem solving at a strategic level, with helping the founder develop more of the vision. And it could be problem solving in the day-to-day execution with different people and projects and processes. So to take that question a step further, like how do you balance like the strategy to the execution, right? Because part of what we do as COOs here at the COO Solution is that we are that strategic, trusted thought partner to the founder. We're that second in command to help run the business for them. So we can capture the strategy, we can capture the plan, but then we also can roll up our sleeves and get to work in some of the nitty gritty with the people and the plans day to day. Like, how do you balance the two, from the strategy and the vision to the execution and the tactics?
I would say the underlying measure for me of success in any task or any project is the confidence of the person or the team doing it. We come in as fractional, which means we have a limited amount of hours. We need to demonstrate the return on the investment in what we do in that limited amount of hours. My job, I feel like, is to be designing and strategizing as much as possible. But oftentimes team members at any level in the organization need to be shown what's step 1, what's step 2, what's step 3. Maybe they need to check in at step 10 to move things forward. And so it's just enough doing to get the ball rolling so that then I can go back to that strategic spot and say, what's the next thing that has to get done?
I love that. And then in the same conversation, if you will, one of the things that I always say to a potential client and also to a potential team member is that one of our values, we have core values here at the COO Solution. And one of those core values is based on trust, establishing trust with the founder, establishing trust with the team, establishing trust in our methodology and our framework of how we do what we do. And part of that is instilling, I call it a loving culture of accountability, right? Ensuring we've got the right people in the right seats with the right responsibilities so that they can be held accountable, not in the sense of like a babysitter, like, did you do this? Did you do that? We want self-accountability. But in a client relationship, how do you establish trust, especially with the founder in the beginning? And how do you establish accountability and kind of cascade that into the team so they feel like they're being supported, like it's a win for them in the work that we're doing as well?
I like my style to be direct but kind. I am not afraid to sort of show my true colors. And I will often say to clients, I have a wrinkle that comes out right here, Derek. I'm sure you have seen it many, many times. You've never said anything about it, but
I would never say anything.
No. But I call that my thinking face. And you know that I am locked in 100%, but it's a real nasty scowl, right? I'm not afraid to say, like, when I introduce myself to a team, like I'm direct but kind, I will always ask if you see this scowl, and just to sort of poke fun at myself, to keep the levity of the situation and to let people know that I take this seriously, but we're all human. We are trying to do this together. You know, I do try to find out a little bit more about people than maybe the average person. I know, having been there, for a working mom, the difference of a deadline between 5 p.m. close of business and 8 a.m. the next business day is significant.
Yeah.
That is significant, and that can be life-changing. And so to find out what is driving people, it's also what is communication style? How do they receive that information? You know, it can be very nerve-wracking for a COO to know where everything is in the business, and then all of a sudden you're giving it to someone else, and are they doing it the same way that you would do it? And what does that feedback look like? Some COOs like 2 or 3 times a week, just 15-minute check-in. Some like the status report. Some want you to be able to show up in Slack in a certain way. It's amazing the small amount of effort on my part to show up in those ways, if I just understand what they are, that can make for the difference of a seamless transition into a team than not.
Yeah. I'm going to put you on the spot here. So you do fractional COO work as part of the COO Solution. I often say you, as well as everybody else on my team, you have 1 foot in TCS. You have 1 foot out of TCS. You have your own fractional COO clients. So in either scenario, when you're doing the COO role, how do you define success? Like, what is the feeling that you have that makes it feel like the work that you're doing is making a difference, that it's a successful client relationship? And then on the flip side, what are some of the signs when you sense that things are slightly getting off track or things are going in a different direction that's not going to lead to a path of success?
I think it comes down to what you mentioned earlier, trust. I think those patterns of trust show up in all different ways. It's saying, hey, here's the direction that I want to go. Here are the milestones. Are you good with it? Yes or no? If I make a mistake, we all make mistakes. It's how that's perceived, and sort of you hear that come back in different ways from the COOs that we work with. It's progress in the core initiatives that we have. Those clients, like, why are we still talking about this, right?
Without naming names.
No names. And I think for me, it is very evident when there is an alignment of core values and when there's not.
Got it. I know recently you had an example, without getting into specifics, with a client where something took place, a moment that clearly meant a lot to you. Can you talk a little bit about what that experience was or what that moment was, what it meant to you? Because I think it kind of embodies in a specific real example of what the impact is of what you do and how you do it.
So I'm working with a client that there is a lot going on, and the founder is a visionary of sorts and bounces around a lot in the business. And this person's job is to go out and sell the business, and is very much in the media and doing all of the things that need to be done. And I had a very, very junior member of the team. I set up one-on-ones with all members of the team or different departments. To every meeting, I come forward. I always have an agenda. It's always the same agenda. We keep tabs of the date so that they can track what's been discussed. And it keeps me organized, because throughout the week, different things come up that I want to talk to them about. And I came to this meeting and there was bright pink writing all in the document. Just, you know, that magenta color. And I'm looking at this like, okay, she's been in here. What's going on? And we went through the list, and it was a really long list. This is a key team member. And she started crying. At first, couldn't figure out where it was coming from. I've been doing this a long time, Derek. I just felt this is why I do my job. And she was crying because she said, I bring stabilization to her job. She knows exactly what she has to do. There are deadlines. There are clear next steps. And to me, it was so simple. It was a simple document that kept me organized, messy bullets everywhere. This powerhouse of a team member, I mean, she just holds the business together, was like, this is the clarity that I need. And it was really, really profound. And it wasn't the loudest person in the business, and it wasn't the COO, but it was the person that holds the business together and just needed someone to work with her to be able to exhale and say, I know why I do what I do and how I'm going to get there.
Yeah, I love that example. There's many. That's a huge, I would say, indirect benefit of the way we do what we do, because the direct benefit is, yes, like I said, it's with the founder on the growth and the scale and the optimization of where they want to be in 5-10 years, if they want to exit or whatever that might be. But sometimes it's in the impact to the team, right? Because when we work with the founder, they have their vision, their filter, their lens of how they see the business, which is sometimes very different than those that are on the boots on the ground day to day. They're actually doing a lot of the operational work. And so when we can lift them up and allow them to feel more supported, more clear in what their roles are, what their responsibilities are, so they could do a better job, they feel like they are more empowered. It kind of, I know it sounds cliche, but it's like a rising tide lifts all boats. And you need that in the team structure. It's not about just uplifting the founder to be more the visionary. We do that, but it's also like uplifting the team. It's a system that's followed by all, and they feel really empowered in the work that you're doing because you see them and you value them and you know what they're experiencing.
And the way that you just described it, Derek, I mean, definitely they're an uplifter to the team, but I almost feel like the way that I hear that from you is that it's an emotional component, which it is. The multiplier effect in terms of the work and the confidence and the way that, to use your word, cascades across the team is enormous. That's what you need when you have that buy-in of here is the mission, here's what we're all rowing towards by the folks with the boots on the ground. That's when the CEO is going to see the effects of the work that's being done.
It goes on both sides. Okay, wonderful. So let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about the COO solution. But in all seriousness, so I don't even remember how we got connected or how we got introduced to each other. That's not as important. But when I probably did reach out and I said, hey, Danielle, would you like to have a conversation? And we had several to get to know each other. And I think establishing trust in the very beginning was of utmost importance, and ensuring that you have the experience and the skill set and the expertise to do the work and to do it well. It's your zone of genius. What attracted you to the idea of doing fractional COO work to supplement what you're doing outside of TCS, but under the umbrella of what we do here? What was that initial, I'd like to have a conversation with Derek, understand more about the model, and like what interests you about that in the beginning?
Sure. So I'm going to take your question back. For everyone listening, Derek loves when I go rogue.
I was waiting for you to do that. I'm trying to tee it up, Danielle. I'm like, when are you going rogue? When are you going?
Yes, I always do. But I recall exactly how we were introduced. And I think it's an important part of this conversation. So the way that we were introduced was I was working on an outside client with one of the OBMs that is on the team.
Yep.
And I had Googled her. Her picture came up on your website. And I asked her, because then I started getting ad targeted by you. And who is this guy? It's this guy in France. And she just said, he is the most lovely person. He is so smart and his values are so clear. Danielle, I have to make an introduction. And this was someone that I really enjoyed working with who knew me. So for her to have already set the stage and saying, Danielle, you have to know this person, because it's not uncommon in the circles to say, oh, this isn't the best client. I don't know where this business is going. And when she was talking about you and this business, she just lit up about it. And I was just so grateful when you messaged me like, oh my gosh, Derek wants to talk to me. I can't wait.
Come on.
No. One of my values is that I want to work with great people. So for someone that I trusted very much to have said that set the stage for me of, I need to learn more. What I have come to understand in my career is sort of this two-tier approach between having, in your case, the founder or a lead strategist, plus someone like myself being the COO more day to day, is actually a really powerful way for me to work. I have done that with other organizations that I don't think are as structurally sound or as developed as your organization. And I very much like that model. And I'll give you the example. We had a client, it was my first client with you. We weren't in alignment with the client. And I have never felt so seen. When it's a one-on-one relationship with a COO, you start to sometimes question, like, am I crazy? Is this the way that it kind of fell out? Like, are we really having this conversation right now? How can you not see what I've been trying to do? And you kind of get in your head about it. And what I love about working with your group is the level of trust, not only that you, but your entire executive office brings to the team, and the way that you set us up with our systems and tools. But there's a sounding board there. Like, you were incredibly helpful in sort of getting me through that journey. And there were times that we had very direct conversations. Even when you were sort of doing more fact finding, I never felt judged or questioned. And then there was a specific, I can't recall what brought it to be, but there was a group of us getting together and we brought an example, and it was like a mini mastermind.
I remember that.
And it was amazing, because oftentimes when you bring a group of individuals together, you don't feel like people are totally invested or people are coming at it with different levels of experience. And it was so profound. And for me to have that sense of community and leveling up, a drop of a Slack message, I need to talk about this. Or I hopped on a call last week with a newer member of the team because she said, this is what I'm seeing, right? That's invaluable to me. And how is that not making for a more joyful experience for me, but also leveling up my skills? And that is really important to me.
Yeah.
I know I just went off your question a bit.
I really appreciate that. No, this is what I want our audience to hear, whether they're a COO or a CEO. I think it embodies how we do what we do, not just in the practical nuts and bolts, but in the values-based driven methodology, if we want to call it that, or a mindset. I always say this, again, in the very beginning to a potential client or a potential team member. We are not a matchmaking service. We are not a placement agency where I'm like, Danielle, client, Danielle. Go and do what you would do as if it was your own client, knowing that you could do it extraordinarily well. It's your zone of genius. It's your sweet spot. You're gifted at running other people's companies. But this is a strategic partnership. It's a collaborative engagement with you, the COO, the client, and myself. And that also includes how we do what we do behind the scenes. There is a methodology, there is a framework, there is a proven approach on how we deliver the work to the client. But at the end of the day, you are that boots on the ground, day-to-day COO. And there are times when it's tough. There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of problems, a lot of issues to be solved, a lot of projects that need to be initiated. And sometimes I think this happened organically. And I think that example you shared was a great model of that. Yeah, we share resources and examples and templates like, have you done this? Have you done that? And we are constantly sharing as a team to up-level everybody's role as a COO and the work that we do with our clients. But I think there's also this like empathetic side, because there's an element that is emotive and it's a mindset, and being able to feel like I got your back, not just in the aspect of the team, but also for me, it's a value. Like, listen, I always say, I know our solution works. Bless you. The perfect timing. That's staying in the recording. I know our solution works, and it's a solution that's not for everybody, but it's the solution that works because of what you described, because we bring everything to the table, not just the ability to get it done, but my involvement, your involvement, the collective of COOs that may not be working with the client directly, but have examples and experience. It really does up-level the way that we do what we do. It's a huge part of, I think, how we've experienced growth and the results that we've had.
Derek, if I could add on to that, the dynamic that I've had the last couple of weeks, I think is the perfect one. So I'm working with you on a couple of clients right now. And one has taken the more sort of traditional business route, have made some pretty hardcore business decisions. The initiatives that I have are very clear and very focused in what I need to do. In juxtaposition to that, we have a client that one of her executives is in a massive personal crisis, multi-tier personal crisis, and this was absolutely detrimental to the business. We paused everything and went into direct problem-solving mode. And yes, there is a framework, but there was a lot of humaning that was happening on that team. And you know me, Derek, I have a hard and fast, like, cell phones are personal devices and they're business hours and we try to be flexible. It was all hands on deck. What do you need for me to do? When do you need to talk? We were in it so deep with the CEO because it was humans, the impact of humans driving key business initiatives. And we could not step away from that. And we had a strategy session that was scheduled for, I don't even know what day, if it was yesterday, the day before, they all sort of blend together. Yeah. We knew within 2 minutes of being on that call, we are not going to go through this presentation, focused on the issue at hand. And we scheduled a follow-up. And that is just how we do it. We care about these businesses, I would say, as much as the owners do.
I love that. And you're right on so many levels. Nothing is linear. Entrepreneurship is never a straightforward path. There is no such thing as permanence. There's always pivots. There's always misdirection and in a good way, sometimes in a not so good way. And part of that is brought up by having a COO in our model step in, because it gets to the core of what needs to happen. They're looking for change, and we bring the change. And sometimes to initiate change, there's a ripple effect. I say this often, we don't come into a business to shake the tree of the business to get things to fall, but we start asking questions about the tree and the branches and the leaves and how it's structured and how it's growing. And that can bring stuff to the table. And you're right, there's that human element, which is really important as a COO, because we're not that transactional hire. We're just not another member of the team. We are a significant leadership change in the organization. And we need to meet the founder where they are as they're going through and stepping into that change as well, which might be foreign to them. It might be scary because it's got to change what's been in place for a long, long time in this example. If there's somebody who's watching this who's a fractional COO, maybe I've had a conversation with them, maybe they found this online, who's thinking about, they're in what I call your before. They were pre-Derek, pre-TCS, and they're thinking about taking the next step to explore partnering with us as a COO in the COO Solution. What would you like them to know? What would you want them to know about working inside TCS and what it really is about?
It is about bringing your heart and your head every day and being able to compartmentalize that. And if you can do that, I would say, don't wait. Do it now. It profoundly changed the way that I work and the way that I enjoy my job and the way that I show up with my clients in the best possible way. It is not for the weak and the weary.
Yes, I know. I don't want them to get the impression that we have challenging clients. We have amazing clients with challenging situations. You know me, I'm a very positive-minded person. So I'll say they're not challenges, they're opportunities. It's just a reframe. We step in and there's stuff to get done. And I think it's great that you said it's not for the faint of heart. It could be outside on how they do, right? There are some that subscribe to the consultant model. That's cool, right? There are some that do more of like the hands-on. Like, I don't want to characterize them as babysitters, but they're like, checkers, if you will. Like, we are not consultants. We are not babysitters. We are strategic operators with an execution mindset in terms of what needs to happen. And I love what you said earlier about professional problem solvers. I think that characterizes us quite well in how we do that.
I think, Derek, also that people are excited when we show up.
Yeah.
So it's also that level of energy of let's get it done, right? I just want to emphasize that we have fantastic clients and they're ready for change.
Yeah.
And they're ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. On the flip side, what would you say if there's a founder CEO who's watching this saying, I'm wondering if I need a Danielle, if I need a fractional COO, what would you say are one or two things from the business perspective or from the founder's perspective that is the awareness that says, yes, take the next step, explore? What would you say to that founder who's maybe struggling with, I'm wondering if I need this type of support now in my business?
Asking the questions, having a conversation with Derek where you're just figuring out, like you're self-diagnosing and you're picking up the symptoms is a conversation. It is not a commitment. If I were that COO and I was self-reflecting, is it still fun? Is this the reason you got into business for yourself? Is the business running you? Are you asking like, what's next? Are you seeing yourself not doing things because you think they're the things that you don't know how to do?
Yeah.
Just look for sort of the symptoms around you. And if you're feeling like you're not having that momentum that you had in the earlier part of the journey, just have a conversation with Derek.
I love that. For the founders that are watching or listening, it's the awareness. When you have the awareness, when the question enters your mind, I wonder if I need to think about, that's the awareness. That's the divine download to saying like, yes, explore, see what the next step might be. Because otherwise, if they're so much into the day-to-day, if they're operationally struggling and they know that they want to scale, they know that they want to grow, it's hard to kind of lift themselves out without having a conversation because they're just, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Like I'll get to that 5 million from 3 million eventually. It's going to be more hours and more hard work. There is a different solution. There is a different path that I think allows them to get there. And when they have that awareness, it just takes the next step. So I think that sums it up perfectly. Well, this was fun. Is there anything else, Danielle, that you haven't shared? Speaking to the COO, speaking to the CEO, anything else that you wanted to share about you, your journey, your work, how we do things, anything else? This is another opportunity for you to go rogue in whatever direction you want.
It's amazing for me to see all the different types of clients that you work with or that we work with. We've had physical products, we've had services, we've had animals, we've had humans, we've had, high stakes professional, and at the end of the day, the problem solving can be incredibly complicated. Or the number of times we've heard from COOs, you mean you can do that?
Yeah.
And we're like, yeah, that's easy, right? Like it's not as complicated as people think if they just show up as themselves principles and with the trust and the integrity.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that people, whether they're CEOs or COOs, just sort of hear this and say, yeah, these sound like my people, and these are the people that are changing the world in a really, really positive way that allows these companies to make their impact.
Yeah, perfect. Beautiful said. Thank you. Thank you so much, Danielle. So if you're watching this, listening to this, and you're a CEO and say, I wonder if now is the right time to think about bringing on a fractional COO, you can go to the COOsolution.com, book a call with me. We'll have a conversation, as Danielle said, an open and honest conversation about where you are, where you want to go, and if our model can help you get to that goal, great. If you're a COO that's thinking about doing fractional COO work with our COO Solution company, you can go to the website as well, the COOsolution.com. I feel like I'm on rinse and repeat here with the COO, TCS, COO Solution. And at the bottom, there's a button there that's called Join Our Team. And you can find out more about potentially join our team here, along with Danielle and some amazing, amazing other COOs here as part of our company. So thank you, Danielle. Really appreciated our conversation today. And thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see you next time on a future episode. Take care. And that's a wrap on this episode of the COO Solution Podcast. If you found today's conversation valuable, I'd love it if you could subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's ready to get control of their business and scale it with a second in command that they trust to handle all the daily tasks and operations they don't enjoy. And hey, maybe you're wondering if now is the time to bring on a trusted fractional COO or Chief Operating Officer to help your thriving business scale with clarity and confidence. If you're tired of doing it alone, visit thecoosolution.com and take our free quiz to help determine if now is the right time to bring a fractional COO to help you scale. In just 25 questions, you'll get a personalized report that helps you decide if your business is ready for the game-changing support of a part-time fractional COO. Let's find out together if it's your next step. Thanks for tuning in, and until next time, let's roll up our sleeves and get to work.